Ray Holloway called his wife Simone just the pretty one in front of a live studio audience on Family Feud. And Steve Harvey stopped the show, pointed at Ray and said, "You are going to apologize to your wife right now, on this stage, in front of every single person in this room." And what happened next made television history. It was a Friday afternoon in April 2023 at Trilith Studios in Atlanta. The Holloway family from Birmingham, Alabama arrived in matching burgundy shirts, and everything about them in the first 20 minutes looked like a commercial for a happy family. Ray and Simone, married 19 years, their adult son Trey, his girlfriend, and Ray's sister Cheryl. They were loud and competitive, and they slapped the buzzer with genuine commitment. Ray was the natural anchor, quick with the answers, quick with the jokes, and the type of man who controlled the tempo of a room without appearing to try. Simone Holloway was beautiful in a way that made strangers look twice. She knew it, and it had complicated her life in ways that rarely get talked about. The way people assumed she was less interesting because she was striking. The way colleagues talked to Ray in meetings and glanced at her afterward as an afterthought. The way she had learned over 19 years to step back just slightly whenever Ray stepped forward. Because that was easier than the alternative. But nobody in that studio knew any of this yet. The comment came in the third round. Steve had asked Ray and Simone a question about which family member was most likely to get out of a speeding ticket. Ray had laughed and pointed immediately at Simone, and the audience had laughed with him, and Simone had smiled. Then Steve had pressed, the way he does, "What does Simone bring to this family?" And Ray, still riding the room's energy without pausing, said, "Honestly, she's just the pretty one. The rest of us do the thinking." He meant it as a compliment. He was grinning. The audience laughed nervously, the way people laugh when they are not sure if something is funny or if something is wrong. Simone Holloway's smile did not waver. That was the tell. Steve Harvey was already walking toward Ray when he heard it. He stopped walking. He looked at Ray, and then he looked at Simone for exactly 2 seconds, and what he saw on her face, the practiced, automatic, invisible collapse of a woman who has absorbed 1,000 versions of this same joke, made him put down his cards. "Cut for a second," Steve said. The room went quiet. Not the game show quiet of a wrong answer. A different kind of silence entirely. Steve walked to the center of the stage, and he stood there and he looked at Ray Holloway without any performance in his expression. "Sir, do you understand what you just said?" Ray's grin faltered. "It was a joke, man. I know it was a joke," Steve said. "That's what I'm talking about." He turned to the audience. "How many of you have heard a version of that joke? Your whole life, someone in your family, maybe someone who loves you makes a joke at your expense, calls you the pretty one, the funny one, the one who doesn't do the thinking." He paused. "And you smile, because it's easier to smile, because you love them, because calling it out would mean making it a fight. And you're tired of fights." He looked back at Simone. "Mrs. Holloway, I am going to ask you something, and I want a real answer. Not the one that keeps the peace. How long have you been doing the thinking for that family and letting someone else take the credit?" Simone Holloway stood at her podium. Her smile was still there. And then it was gone. 19 years, she said. The room held its breath. Hardened television professionals were looking at the floor. Ray Holloway's expression had changed entirely. He was no longer grinning. He was looking at his wife as if he was seeing something he had stopped noticing a very long time ago. "Let me tell you something," Steve said. He walked back toward the center, and his voice shifted into the register that people who have watched him for years recognize immediately. Not the host voice, the real one. "I have been on this planet for 66 years. And the most important thing I have learned, more important than anything I've learned about money or fame or success, is that the person who shows up every day and does the quiet work and never gets the applause is usually the person carrying the whole operation. Not the pretty one. The essential one. And those two things are not the same." He stopped directly in front of Ray. "You are going to apologize to your wife. Right now. On this stage, in front of every single person in this room." Ray Holloway looked at his wife. He swallowed. He was quiet for a long moment. And then he said, "Simone, I'm sorry. I've been saying that for 19 years and I never heard it until right now. I'm sorry." Simone looked at him. Her eyes were bright. She nodded once. "That's a start," she said. The audience erupted. Trey Holloway, their son, was on his feet. Cheryl was crying. The competing family, the Petersons from Dallas, were standing and applauding without any prompting. But Steve wasn't done. He held up his hand. "Ray, I need you to hear something else," Steve said. "Because I have stood exactly where you're standing. I have been the man in the room who didn't understand what he had until someone made him stop and look. And I want to tell you that what Simone just did, staying in a marriage for 19 years with a person who called her the pretty one and smiling every time, that is not weakness. That is the grace of a woman who chose to love you even when you weren't earning it. You need to spend the next 19 years earning it." He turned to the camera. "And I want everyone watching right now, every man who just heard that joke and thought it was harmless, every woman who just smiled and let it go, to hear this. Small words do big damage. You don't need to shout at someone to make them small. You just need to do it enough times in a row." Steve pulled out his phone. He called his foundation director and arranged for both families to receive not just the full prize, but enrollment in a couples communication seminar run through the Steve Harvey Foundation. Not as punishment, he made clear, but as a gift. Because this family, Steve said, gesturing to the Holloways, came here today and accidentally did the most important thing they've done in 19 years. And I want to give them the tools to keep going. The competing family received the full prize as well. When the episode aired, the clip of Simone saying 19 years after Steve asked his question was viewed 260 million times in 11 days. The hashtag 19 years trended in 27 countries. Marriage counselors cited the clip in professional literature. Women's organizations hosted screenings of the segment and wrote open letters about it. The clip was translated into 14 languages. 3 months after the taping, Ray and Simone Holloway completed the communication seminar. Simone later wrote about the experience in a piece she published on a personal blog titled "The Day Someone Made Him See Me." The piece was shared 4.2 million times. A year after the taping, Steve Harvey referenced the Holloway episode during an interview and said, "I didn't do anything extraordinary that day. I just refused to let something ordinary stay invisible. That's it. That's the whole job." The Steve Harvey Foundation's Couples Communication Program has since served over 2,400 families across the United States. Simone Holloway volunteers with the program 3 times a year. She runs the session on the cost of silence. Ray Holloway attends every one. Some things hide in plain sight for years. The same sentence, the same smile, the same quiet accommodation of something that should never have been accommodated at all. And sometimes all it takes is one person in the room who refuses to walk past it. That is the job. That is the whole job. If this moment moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that dignity is not demanding. It is the minimum. Have you ever witnessed a moment where someone finally said what needed to be said? Share your story in the comments. And ring that notification bell for more moments that prove that the truth, spoken with courage, changes everything.